polynomial by a polynomial using something called synthetic division. Okay? It's kind of like long division with no variables in it. Okay? You can only use synthetic division when you are dividing by a polynomial in the form x plus or minus n. Okay? So it has to be this form. Notice that the x term has no coefficient and it has no power. So it has to be in that form to use synthetic division. And a lot of what you do, because you're going to, we're going to learn to do this synthetic division, and when you get to your next algebra class, which will be college algebra or pre-calculus, you'll do other things with this. Okay? We're going to do one more thing with it in Goal 6.5, but you'll expand even from that. Okay? So it can only be used in certain types of division. Okay? So we're going to use it, and you don't have to determine when or when you can't, because all the ones we're going to do, you're going to be able to use it. Okay? So when you set up synthetic division, it looks like this. You take the coefficients, and you write them without x's. So 2, leave a little space, -3, leave a little space, and 7, leave a little space. And then you put like this half box over here. And if you are dividing by x minus 2, then in the box you're going to put a positive 2. So the opposite of what you see there. So if it says x minus 2 in the box, you're going to put a plus 2. And then you're going to leave a little space, and you're going to draw a line. Everybody with me so far? So the initial setup is to take the coefficients of your polynomial that you're dividing into and write those with a little space. In your half box there, you're going to put the opposite of what you see. That's the easiest to look at. So when it says minus, put a plus. If it says plus, put a minus. Okay. Then the first number, whatever this number is here, comes down below the line. And then we take the number in the box times this number that we just brought down. We multiply them. 2 times 2 is 4. And that goes under the -3. And we add that together. And we get 1. And we repeat that. 2, the number in the box, times the number down here. 2 times 1 is 2. That goes under the 7. And we add that, and we get 9. Those numbers then represent something. There's a couple different ways you could look at it. I'm going to work from the right to the left first. The number you get last is your remainder. So that's always going to be your remainder, and it might be 0. If it's 0, you don't have a remainder. Working backwards then, this is my constant term. This is my x term, and then I would continue to go in a bigger question to x squared, x to the third, etc. So when I write my answer now, this represents 2x plus 1 plus 9 over x minus 2. So the last number represents your remainder, and then your constant, and then your x. So this represents 2x plus 1 plus 9 over, remember how we write our remainders, we're dividing by x minus 2, so we write that as x, looks like x times 2, x minus 2. Now, I want to go over and show you how in long division, you don't, please write this down, don't write it down. Just watch me. So if I would have taken this, and I'm going to scrunch it in here, and I would have used long division, I would have had 2x, so 2x squared minus 4x. I would have changed my signs and added, plus 1, so 1x minus 2, changed my signs and added, and look what I've gotten here. I've gotten my 2, my 1, and my 9.
You can't see it.
Oh my gosh. How long did it do that? Just right then, or the whole thing?
The whole thing.
The whole dang thing?
Well, it wasn't writing at first, and then it just turned off.
Okay. Usually my peripheral vision, or as my daughter would call it, her side eyes, would catch that. So I did this in long division, whether you saw it or not. I did this using long division, like you just did in your OTL. And then look what happens. The 2, the 1, the 9. The 2, the 1, the 9. So it's like using long division without any x's in it. Okay? It's much faster. Okay? Much faster. So that's why we learn this for these particular kind of problems, because we'll be able to expand on it and do a quicker process. Okay? If you've never seen synthetic division before, you can see that it's easy, but you got to know where to put what numbers. Okay? Otherwise, it messes it all up. Okay, so let's go through another question. Because there's a couple little tricks in here too that you got to watch for. Yes?
Why'd you put a 2 in that box?
Because that's what we're dividing by. We're dividing by x minus 2. So we change the sign. If it says x minus 2, we put a positive 2. So you put the opposite of what you see there. The reason we change the sign is that compensates for all the subtraction that you would do in long division. Okay? Okay, so in our next one, we'll set this up. We have a 1 understood on x to the third. We have negative 2x squared, a 1x, and a positive 2 for my constant. I'm dividing by x plus 2. So in my little box, I'm going to put minus 2. Leave a little space. Okay, so get it set up, writing all the coefficients of your x's and your constant. Make sure you bring the pluses and minuses. Obviously, we don't usually write the plus, but make sure you bring the minuses. In my box, the opposite of what I see here. The first number, whatever it is, comes down and goes below the box, or below the line, sorry. And then I multiply my box times that number, so negative 2 times positive 1, and that goes under the negative 2. And I add and get negative 4. And I repeat, I multiply negative 2 times negative 4, and I get positive 8, and I add and get 9. And I multiply negative 2 times positive 9, and I get negative 18, and I add and get negative 16. And I'll work from the right to the left in writing my answer. This is my remainder, my constant, my x squared, and we would continue to go up if we had more numbers, which we will eventually here. So this is 1x squared minus 4x plus 9, and you can write that as plus negative 16, or you can write it as a minus. So plus negative 16 over x plus 2. A question so far? Yes, sir.
If there was another term before like the 1, wouldn't that be x cubed?
Yep. Just keep going up on your power. And another thing to know is that if you start dividing into an x to the third power, your first term is going to be 1 degree less. So it's going to be an x squared. Some people like to work from the left to the right, so they know that if they're dividing into an x to the third, that this is going to be an x squared, and then an x, and then a constant, and then a remainder. I work from the right to the left because sometimes you get a 0, and that tends to confuse people in an answer. So I go from the right to the left. Okay, I'm going to start this one, and I'm going to start it because this is the kind of problem that people miss. If people are going to miss this, this is the problem right here, or one like this. It's because you just forget to do something. And if you work from the right to the left, you should know that you're doing something wrong because it won't come out. Okay, you'll notice that I'm missing, or maybe you don't notice yet, but you will now that I'm telling you, an x squared. You don't have an x squared here. So since you do not have an x squared, you do have to fill in a 0 placeholder. Remember when we were doing the long division, sometimes it didn't line up, and so I had to fill in a 0 term. And I told you could leave it blank, but filling in that 0 was kind of important to what we were doing today. Today you have to have it there, okay? So I have a 1x to the third, no x squareds, a 0, a negative 4x, and a positive 5 for my constant. So exponents of 3, 2, 1, and then none. So no x squared, I have to have that 0 there, or it doesn't come out. I'm dividing by x plus 3, so in my little box I'm going to put a minus 3. Leave a little space. The first number comes down below the line. So again, not difficult, but you got to remember that rule. So I'm going to multiply. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Add. Multiply. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. Add. Multiply. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. Add. So make sure you get a 0 put in there if there's a term missing. So when I start from the right, again I have remainder, constant, x squared. And you don't have to write that stuff that I'm writing in pink there. Just know that. So I have 1x squared minus 3x plus 5 plus negative 10 over x plus 3, which you could also write as just minus 10 over x plus 3.